Here we go, Chiefs Kingdom. We are ready, and you are ready. It's Red Friday, Jacksonville Jaguars. Coming up next, lot of trade deadline hype about one of their players. We'll see him this week. How does this offense respond? What can they hope for against this defense? And how does this end up? All today on Locked On Chiefs.
From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
Welcome back, everybody. It's Red Friday. I'm kind of pumped about this one. Another young star at quarterback. A lot of intrigue with this Jacksonville Jaguars team. The Chiefs get to kind of take a breath after this last meeting with. We'll see and get in all of the details and give you our predictions as we lay it down. We're brought to you today by LinkedIn. It's the easiest way to get to their job site and get people you want working for you. Check out LinkedIn Jobs. We're going to go over this in detail, but thanks for making us your first listen. We're part of the podcast network that is Locked On. That's your team every day for every team everywhere, NHL, NBA, all of it. And you can find us for free on every platform. So we appreciate that. I'm Ryan Tracy, the founder of Rogue Analytics and Performance Consulting, NFL 33 and RGR.
And I'm Chris Clark. Thank you all for listening. We do appreciate it. And give us those, likes, subs, and go hit the notification bell on YouTube if you would, please. Appreciate that. We also appreciate the reviews on iTunes and Spotify. So thank you very much for those. Lots to talk about. So this game is going to be very interesting for Kansas City. I looked at and I talked to Tony Wiggins of Locked On Jaguars yesterday. So if you didn't check that out, go check that show out. He has a lot of good points. This team is, they are 3-6. So the record says that they're not a very good team. But they've beat the two AFC West teams that they've played. And, I guess they lost to the Broncos. I apologize. So they're 2-1 against the AFC West this year. But all their losses are one-score games.
Yeah, that's intriguing. And if you guys don't remember Tony, go back to last year's streams from the Senior Bowl. Tony was down there with me and had some of the most insightful pieces. Tone he sees things a lot of the way that I do as well. So you're going to enjoy that because he doesn't pull any punches, and that's a fact. If those games are that tight, that gives you an indication of how things have been going for them, that they're within striking distance, say. And I think it really comes down to this was a guy in their quarterback that I think has underperformed so far, especially with Doug Peterson, who I expected to kind of turn him around. But in all intents and purposes, this is Lawrence's rookie season because you just got to throw last year away with Urban Meyer. So take that into account because the intriguing part is what we heard coming out in the draft. And obviously not last season because it was an utter muck. But they called him generational talent. That's not the words that were used for Patrick Mahomes. When he came out, it was, can he get his footwork right? What are his mechanics? How does this happen? So like Patrick and Josh are leading the younger generation, we want to call it, right? With Burrow and Herbert not far behind. But a lot of folks feel like Trevor Lawrence is eventually going to turn into his generation's best player. He's got to go through Mahomes. I see them as pretty close. And so far, I don't see their performances as anywhere near close. Do you?
No, I don't think they're anywhere near close. But I think the big key that you have to look at right now is Kansas City actually had a proven product. Kansas City has a proven coach. Kansas City had a proven team around Mahomes. And while Mahomes, I think, makes players better around him, and I'm not saying Trevor Lawrence can't, Trevor Lawrence didn't step into a situation like Patrick Mahomes did in Kansas City. Yeah. Now, the fascinating thing to me, and I talked about this yesterday with Tony, is this is also Andy Reid versus Doug Peterson. I know they don't go against each other on the field, but this is going to be something a lot of fun to watch.
You ask them, it's still head-to-head. I guarantee it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's why we start with these two folks, because this is a two-headed monster. It's a duo versus a duo for all intents and purposes. Yes, they have support. Yes, they all have defenses and running backs. We're going to talk about those in the next segment. But it comes down to overall, how can you exploit the defense through the passing league of these two guys that are at the head of your organization and have had that kind of investment in them? But Trevor Lawrence is a top pick. One of one. Patrick Mahomes, obviously, we know about the trade and the history and the MVPs and et cetera, et cetera. But it comes down to how can these coaches work with these quarterbacks to get the effort on the field to get a W? And there's a lot of intricacies. And as you said before, you and Tony's discussion was right on point that they have been close. Is it purely offense in your mind that is the significant portion to see if the Jags can even try to keep up.
I think it has to be. They haven't scored very many points. I mean, they scored a lot of points against the Chargers, but other than that, they really haven't scored very many points. They scored a decent amount against the Raiders. I don't think, other than the Chargers game, they scored over 30 points this season. And
correct.
I just have a problem believing that they're going to get there this week against the Chiefs team, who showed defensively that they can do things in the past several weeks, and they've been getting a lot healthier. Although we do need to say this. It was reported that everybody was going to practice but McCole Hardman, and then you get the practice report and L'Jarius Sneed is limited. That is a problem. Is it a huge problem for this game? No. Is it a huge problem for next week against the Chargers? Absolutely. And it's a knee injury, so that is something that that we're definitely going to have to watch.
Yeah, I believe Colin Saunders is out as well after having maybe the game of his career.
He came back. He was supposed to be out, but he came back. He was at practice. It was a personal. This is a personal thing for him, but he made it to practice today. So,
okay, good for him. I'm glad to hear that, because I am concerned about L'Jarius Sneed. Any kind of knee injury to a DB is always going to be iffy. But I don't think he'd be out there if he couldn't go. I think they would be really, really overly conservative with L'Jarius Sneed. If there was something significant, I don't think he would have practiced at all, to tell you the truth.
Well, unless he tweaked it during practice, and then it becomes a limited scenario. And I think the bigger question when it comes to his knee is, if he's not able to play, I think the big thing that you have to look at for the Chiefs is they're going to be 3 rookies deep. I mean,
4.
That's the reality of, well, yeah, but
it's going to be 4, because Najee will be the next guy up. And that also precipitates, how do you align those rookies? We're going to talk about that later in the show, folks.
And today I want to tell you that we are brought to you by LinkedIn. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. You want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. Add your job and the purple hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you're hiring. Simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience, so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply.
Now, we led off, we might as well pick right back up there. When you look at the depth chart and how you're going to defend the Jacksonville Jaguars, it is L'Jarius Sneed at the top of the heap, and then Trent McDuffie. And yes, it is Trent McDuffie second, folks. It is not a question. And then probably Josh Williams, if we're going off of last week's snap counts, and then Jalen Watson. 3 rookies. The next guy up is Najee Johnson, another rookie. I think the experiment that we saw on the field, I think for 3 snaps 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, including the bye now with Chris Lamons out there, was a failure in terms of an experiment. And I do not expect to see him on the field.
Well, you can expect not to see him on the field. They might not have a choice. That's the problem. Going to be a lot of questions, and we're going to have to watch. Obviously, as we're recording this, it's Thursday night. We always put this up for Friday morning. So it's possible that, Sneed is back out there in a full participant. Maybe he just did a little tweak to his knee, and hopefully that's the case. We will not know until probably closer to game time whether or not he's going to be able to play. But definitely something to watch for on Friday's practice report.
Yeah, I think we're going to have to be keyed into that pretty well. One thing that we're not going to be keyed into, and I think given last week's effort, there's been a lot of hubbub about it. And we all know what Patrick's going to do and Kelce's going to do and how they're going to have to approach that. We'll talk pass rush in a minute. It's the ground games. Can they get anything going? Because 60-plus passes for Patrick Mahomes is not acceptable to anyone, including Patrick and Andy. I know that they let that get away, and they know that they let that get away. So the question becomes, can you generate some run? Is it Pacheco? Does it have to be CH? Do you have to change up how you're doing this? Is the health of the offensive line the culprit here? I didn't see a whole lot of push. We'll see. And the opposite is Etienne is one of the hottest running backs in the league right now the last 2 weeks. a guy that had a significant injury during the Urban Meyer. That might be, actually, now that I think about it, that might be the blessing in disguise, is he blew out his knee the year Urban Meyer got to coach him. So he didn't get soiled, so to speak. So I think it's very intriguing. If I'm the Jaguars, I got to run at this defense. And if I'm the Chiefs, I have to get more run game going. What do you see them doing?
I love how you always say that they have to get more run game going, and they just never seem to. So I'm not going to say that.
They did once. They did once
Yeah,
against the Bucs. Made me happy.
That's fair. I don't see them throwing the ball 60 times. I do see them throwing the ball a lot. I think that they're going to continue to lean on their passing game to the extent that Reed has in the past. The bigger problem that you ran into against the Titans is they were just shutting down holes. You couldn't find a place to run. You could not get anything going. And that's a big problem. If you can't make any kind of push and you can't get any kind of momentum going that way, you're going to have to throw the ball more. And honestly, their pass offense wasn't doing that great either. So it was a multifaceted problem. Now you start looking at what they're going to do against this Jaguars team. I think it's a different defense. I think that it's going to be very intriguing to watch Devin Lloyd on Travis Kelce. That's going to be a fun matchup to see. There's going to be a lot of matchups that will be interesting in this game, but I think what you're going to see is Juju is going to have to play another big part in this game. Devin Lloyd is going to be a question. Can he slow down Kelce enough to where they feel like he can handle him at least partially one-on-one? That's always a big question. Who's going to cover Travis Kelce? Devin Lloyd is the next man up in that regard. And then you start looking at the rest of the Chiefs offense. It doesn't look like the Chiefs are going to have McCole Hardman. He was out with another abdominal injury, still didn't practice. So you're down to Sky Moore, Kadarius Toney, MVS. Those are the guys that are going to have to step up. And obviously you still have Justin Watson as well. So that's going to be something to watch. But then you flip it over to the other side. I'm glad you brought up Travis Etienne because he has been playing very well. The question I have in that I go into this game with is, it's not that I don't think the Chiefs can beat the Jaguars. I do think that they can, and I think we'll talk about the score later. But I think the key here is that they've started to get their running game going. And when you start getting to a point where they have the opportunity to be multifaceted, that's going to make it a lot tougher on the defense, especially if you're missing a guy like L'Jarius Sneed.
Yeah, it becomes critical. Now, there's some options there, obviously. I think, is Zay Jones actually leading them in yardage from the wide receiver position? No, it is Christian Kirk. So it is a slot-based game. This is a bad condition for not having L'Jarius Sneed. I will say, I don't think he was tested very much last week in Trent McDuffie, but I do know that they repped him early at nickel in case this happened. And I do have confidence that he is in a position to attack some of that. And not just because I have faith in Trent McDuffie, but there's an inside scoop as well. Christian Kirk played with Budda Baker for a very, very long time. Budda Baker is the guy that helped recruit Trent McDuffie to UW. There is a connection there. I'm sure there'll be plenty of information shared about slowing down Christian Kirk. So I don't see that as a stab to the heart, to tell you the truth.
Well, and that's going to be something to watch. I mean, Christian Kirk has been playing well for the Jaguars. Is he worth the contract they gave him? That's going to be something we'll know in a couple of years. But is he giving them a legitimate wide receiver? I think, yeah, he has to this point. So what are they going to do? How are they going to defend, or how are the Chiefs going to defend that attack, that passing attack, and go after Travis Etienne? If they can slow down the Jaguars on a couple of drives early, then I think you're going to be in business. If they let the Jaguars hang around, that's when you start getting into problems.
Agreed. And when you look at this defense, it is truly the linebackers that are the strength of it so far. Everything funnels to them. They make the most tackles on this. Lloyd was my top linebacker coming out in this last draft. Now, he's not a guy necessarily that I think prefers to be in tight contact. So in terms of what teams have done to Kelce in the past and roughing him up and getting really physical with him, they may choose to do that a little bit, but I don't think that's an advantage for Lloyd. I think Travis will out-accelerate him, to be quite frank. And so it comes down to, can their pass rush get there? We're going to have to take a serious talk about what the Chiefs offense can do in defending that pass rush. We'll do that after this, because I do want to make sure that I tell you all about the most important thing to you, might be the most important thing that you have to protect, and SimpliSafe can help you with that. They are the place right now for our fans, Locked On Chiefs listeners, You can order the #1 rated SimpliSafe home security system for 50% off. It's their biggest offer of the year, and you don't want to miss it because they will take care of you and the things that you want taken care of. They share everything that you want, you can get from them in terms of the safety, how your family will come first in protecting what's yours. And then you have this 24-hour monitoring that really gives you the peace of mind when you're actually not there. And I think that's the bigger part for a lot of folks is what happens at your home when you are not present. It's in an emergency. You have 24/7 monitoring that affects everything. It's the Fast Protect technology that really sets them apart, and it's exclusive from SimpliSafe. It's whole home security for sensors in every room, every door, every window, HD cameras, even hazard sensors that detect fires and floods, which if you're down in Florida, you probably need right now. So take care of all you Jags fans out there. That monitoring costs less than $1 a day, and it's top rated in their app that you can control everything from your phone. Don't miss the chance to save big on that, the only security system that we can recommend. It's 50% off at SimpliSafe. At simplysafe.com/lockedon. It's the biggest discount of the year, so don't wait. Check out simplysafelockedon.com/lockedonnfl. There's no safe like SimpliSafe. Safe is one thing you can play, but when you're playing these Kansas City Chiefs, you got to take some chances. Chances, I think, is what can pay off for the Jaguars' rush defense. Rush offense in that the pass rush itself. We talked a lot about trying to acquire Josh Allen from the Jags before the trade deadline. There's a reason for that. He leads this team in pressures by a good margin. He only has 3 sacks on the season, same as first-round draft pick Trayvon Walker, who is a gargantuan man and an elite athlete. These are the bookend pass rushers that the Chiefs have to deal with. And after last week, particularly on the right-hand side, you saw some cracks in the armor, maybe more so than we wanted to. Not as bad as it looked first look, but how do you rate this kind of matchup, the edges from Jacksonville versus the Chiefs tackles?
Concerning. I think that you are going to be looking at a situation that could be very concerning for Kansas City. I think what you saw last week was Patrick Mahomes got the ball out of his hand very quickly on most throws. Don't get me wrong, there were some throws where he did his magic and kind of ran around the field and did whatever he wanted. But on most throws, he was trying to get the ball out quick. I think that that's the way that they're going to have to attack this. They're going to have to figure out routes and combinations that are going to help them get the ball out of his hands quickly, because you do not want Andrew Wiley going up against Trayvon Walker one-on-one on a regular basis. No. And what we've seen is teams consistently have started to put 3 rushers on one side of the center, and that forces you to be one-on-one on the other side.
Yeah. It is called isolation, and it does work. You got 8 pressures on Andrew Wiley last week. You got 6 on Orlando Brown. The other scary thing is that Trayvon Walker at Georgia was able to go inside. He can do that now, too. There's no reason not to. He's got the length. He's got the power. He's got it all. Trey Smith is not 100%. Trey Smith gave up 6 pressures last week as well. So I could see them moving around and trying to attack Trey a little bit with Trayvon as well.
And I could see that. The one thing I would say is that I do not see Trayvon Walker as the same as Jeffrey Simmons. Simmons is the one that pressured, that got all the pressure on Mahomes. And that's very hard. That's a very hard matchup for almost any guard in the league. So I agree with you. I don't think he's 100%, but I don't see Jeffrey Simmons and Trayvon Walker being in the same mold in that regard.
I'm with you. When it comes to pass rush, the guy who leads his team in sacks is Dwayne Smoot, who does line up at tackle and will be directly in Trey's face. So it is a bit of a concern. So I agree with you completely. It's got to come out with tempo. It's got to come out like it does in the first 15. I think they've started the last 2 games with the right script in hitting the ball out under 2.5, and boom, the ball's gone. Attack, attack, attack. Get as many plays in as you can. This is like a tempo practice for them. So it shouldn't be an issue. And the guy that you mentioned earlier that I'm really intrigued to see that can very much help with that is Kadarius Toney. How many snaps does he get this week? We got, I think, a little bit more than maybe we expected in week 1 of his tenure.
I bet he gets double, at least.
You think so? Okay.
At least.
I'm down with that. I think he's a guy who can help, in particular, in that quick game.
Well, and I wonder if they start giving him some of what Mecole Hardman's been doing. Mecole took the jet sweep action type stuff from Tyreek Hill. Well, Tyreek Hill's not here. Mecole probably isn't playing this week, so maybe they give Kadarius Toney some of those types of plays where he's out on the field and even just running as a decoy. Because I think Mecole and Tyreek Hill at times have done that in the past couple of years. So to me, I think that would make a lot of sense.
I agree with you. So what does happen? Let's get to prediction time, folks. Make sure you put your predictions down in the YouTube comments and over on the reviews on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Hit us at Locked On Chiefs with your thoughts as well. But you want to go first, or should I tackle it?
Go right ahead.
In the end, I like this pairing of Trevor Lawrence and Doug Peterson. I said at the time, this could save Lawrence's career from what his first season was going to be. That said, I don't think that the targets are enough to help him out. The O-line actually has performed decently for what I expected from them. I would say above expectations for me. It's still not enough. Despite what the Chiefs defense gave up in pass yards and maybe being without L'Jarius Sneed, I don't see the Jaguars being able to put up 27, which they've done twice in their last 4 ball games. I just don't see it happening. On the other hand, if they do harass Patrick, I do think that this receiver group is going to have a much easier time getting to open spots and helping him, coming back to him in this ball game than they did in the last. So overall, I don't see that it's terribly competitive after the first quarter. I see the Chiefs winning this 35-24.
Dude, I swear you just took what I said as my prediction for yesterday.
I win.
Okay. Yeah, that's actually the exact score I picked yesterday. What I will throw out there is I think that this could be a closer game. It has the potential to be a closer game than that. Again, it's a question of, does Kansas City let Jacksonville hold or stay around long enough? I think if they shut them down early, that will probably be that, because if you make them one-dimensional, I think that Kansas City has the ability to stop them. But the bigger question and the thing that is really intriguing to me is, does Jacksonville have a defense that can do what Tennessee has done and other teams have done in the past and get home with 4? If they do, that could give Kansas City's offense some trouble. I don't think that that's going to end up being the case. I think that they're going to have to try to blitz. And generally speaking, blitzing Mahomes isn't going to pay off very well for you. So I hate doing it, but I'm going to go with the same score prediction I did yesterday and the same score prediction as you just gave, because 35-24, I think that that's probably pretty accurate. And I will also say, I do think it's possible Jacksonville scores even less, because I think they're going to have to press. They're going to have to be aggressive on offense. And if they make mistakes, that could lead to a larger point differential.
I like that. And this is the first time in 3 seasons that we've had the same score prediction. So it's bound to come true. Or we're both going to be totally wrong. One or the other, folks.
Yep.
Let us know. Again, hit us on YouTube, hit us on Spotify and all the review sites, and Locked On Chiefs on Twitter. We appreciate your time. I hope you guys are ready for it. Happy Red Friday. We'll have post game for you like we always do. Make sure that you're around for that, because I think it's going to be kind of a fun day. So enjoy your weekend up until that. Thanks for listening today, and we'll talk to you then.